So. So no other family of orbital class rockets has launched more than 63 times a year. That was Soyuz, and we did 50% more. The Falcon Heavy also surpassed, in terms of heavy lift vehicles, the record for Saturn V, which I think that, with 5 launches last year, we exceeded the Saturn V record. So that was pretty incredible on Falcon Heavy. So this gives you a sense in pictures of how incredible that was. For a while there, I was like, I'd be posting something, is this like the launch that just happened or the one that is happening, or because there were 3 launches that happened in the space of a few days. So. But this is all the launches on one page. And so it's really, really incredible. All made it to orbit, all landed. So just a huge hand for the Falcon team. That was incredible. So. And 2/3 of the missions were Starlink, but a third were for other customers, for NASA, for other communication satellites. So it was a combination of Starlink plus a lot of other missions. So even if you just take the non-Starlink portion of the flights, that was more than any other vehicle last year, by a long shot. We launched NASA's Psyche, ESA's Euclid, the X-37B spaceplane, multiple transporter missions. We did missions for OneWeb, Viasat, and we're actually on contract to launch Amazon's Kuiper constellation. And we treat everyone fairly, so, just one, and we managed to do 19 flights on a single Falcon 9 booster, which is really incredible, in 3.5 years. And that booster did 860 satellites and delivered 260 metric tons to orbit. So it's like, wow. So there's a lot of wows. It's worth, how long ago was it that we landed a booster? It was actually 8 years ago, in December, roughly 8 years ago. And since that time, we've landed 260 times. So 260 landings. It's just like, wow. There were a lot of people that said that it couldn't be done. And then there were a lot of people that said, even if it could be done, it's a dumb idea. That it wouldn't pay off. That it wouldn't make sense. But we've shown that, in fact, it is absolutely the right idea. Reusability is the key to a great future in space. It's essential. We need reusability with rockets, just like we have reusability for cars, for airplanes, for bicycles, for horses. Obviously, reusability is essential. And the fundamental invention that is necessary for humanity to become a multi-planet species is a full and rapidly reusable, reliable rockets. RRR. So it's incredible how much has happened in 8 years. So, I wonder what will things be like 8 years from now? And hopefully I think we will have landed on Mars. And I think we will have sent people to the moon. And maybe if we get lucky, we'll have sent people to Mars within 8 years. You know, the key question, sort of, I think, about for civilization is, the key test, perhaps, for civilization is, do we make it through this Fermi great filter of going from a one-planet civilization to a multi-planet civilization? And if we do become a multi-planet civilization, we may go out there to other star systems and discover many long-dead one-planet civilizations. And we don't want to be one of them. That's lame. We don't want to be one of those lame one-planet civilizations. But I think we should always regard civilization as fragile, as not something that, not a situation where there is an inevitable upward trajectory. I read a lot about history, and if you read history, you see that civilizations are anything but permanent. That many civilizations have risen and fallen over the years, over the centuries and millennia. And eventually the sun will expand, boil the oceans, and destroy all life on Earth. Now, admittedly, that's several hundred million years in the future, but it's only about maybe 10 or 20% of the existence of Earth itself. If Earth is 4.5 billion years old, then another 20% longer, and intelligent life would not have evolved, because it's taken us a long time to get to this point. So, that's really the key test. Do we become a self-sustaining multi-planet civilization while civilization still exists, or don't we? I think that's really the key question. I think we've got a good chance, but it's not a sure thing. That's why time is of the essence. I think we want to make Mars self-sustaining as quickly as possible. It's not just a question of getting people to Mars, but it's getting enough tonnage and equipment to Mars to enable Mars to be self-sustaining. The key test being that if the resupply ships from Earth stop coming for any reason, does Mars die out, or does it continue? That's really the fundamental threshold to pass the Fermi paradox great filter. And the Fermi paradox is, where are the aliens? If life is common, if intelligent life is common, shouldn't we see a lot of evidence of it? Now, I get asked a lot about, aliens, actually. And I usually say I am one. Well, actually, I used to be, according to, Homeland Security. It's an alien registration card, literally. I was like, okay. But the truth is, I actually have not seen any evidence of aliens, which I think is maybe a bit more troubling than if I had. I have not seen any, and I'd be on it, and you can pretty much guarantee that I would post about it instantly, okay? I was like, yep, we got one. This is a spaceship for sure. But I have not seen anything. So that leads me to think that we're more likely to be a tiny candle of consciousness in a vast emptiness, a vast darkness. That the civilization that we have is really just this very, very small candle in a vast darkness, and we just must do everything possible to ensure that candle does not go out. Yeah. Anyway, I think we can do it. So, but we need to move fast, because you just never know. I mean, there could be, at any given point, like Stephen Hawking actually, I believe, said that he thought there was like roughly a 1% chance in any given century of civilization ending. That was his rough estimate. I think it actually might be higher than that, so we just want to go there fast. So this is getting back to Falcon 9, back to reality. These are all the launches we've done, and you can see how the cadence of launches has rapidly increased over time. I think people online have actually assembled videos showing every launch, and it just gets like crazy fast as you get to 2023. So we've done a 19.3 flight. We're now qualifying Falcon 9 to be able to do 40 flights, and we're aiming for maybe as much as 150 flights this year. So, and then let's not forget fairing recovery, because actually a lot of people don't realize we recover the fairing as well. This was actually very difficult to recover the fairing. So it took us an immense amount of effort. But we now quite regularly recover the fairing, and we've reflown fairings 300 times. So congrats to the fairing recovery team. That was actually pretty damn hard. So. Oh, and then of course we do operate basically a small navy. I think people don't always know that, but we have drone ships and support ships of various kinds. So we've got a small fleet of ships, and we operate them very efficiently. I think people also sometimes don't know the size. Like, you can see the size of the ship by the person walking around on it. It's not small. So it looks cool. I like this sort of, it's kind of a Darth Vader aesthetic, but I like it. So, and we're also getting much better with the pad turnaround. We achieved a 3-day pad turnaround, and I think we're aiming to hopefully, get under 24 hours pad turnaround by the end of this year. So in terms of launch rate, so it's been 15 years since flight 1 of Falcon 1. Oh, sorry, flight 4 of Falcon 1, the first one to reach orbit. So 15 years since we got anything at all to orbit. And now we're aiming to have 150 flights or thereabouts this year. So, And these are big rockets at this point. Falcon 1 is a little rocket. In fact, when I see Falcon 1 right now, I was like, man, I think I'd probably tuck that under my arm and just take it home with me. I was like, launch it in the backyard or something. It looks so cute. But at the time, Falcon 1 did seem like it was extremely difficult. It took us 4 flights to reach orbit. And it did seem kind of big at the time, but now it's like an adorable thing. So, yeah. So I think the most profound metric, or the metric that really describes the magnitude of what SpaceX achieved in 2023 is the mass to orbit number. So, and you can see the incredible change just year over year. So 2021, we're slightly below rest of world. 22, we, I think, roughly doubled what the rest of the world did. And last year, we were 80% of all mass to orbit. So when rest of the world, we mean like the rest of US industry, Europe, India, China, Japan, everyone. So there's not a lot of industries where a company is doing like 80% of everything. And then what's really mind-boggling is that number should increase by 50% this year. So I guess on the order of like 90% of all mass to orbit, not counting Starship. So as we start launching Starship is like roughly 100 tons to orbit with every flight. There's a path to getting Starship to do over 200 tons with full reusability. So 200 tons to useful orbit with full reusability. And yeah, it's really an incredible amount. 1,200 tons of useful load to orbit last year. Yeah, that's just astounding. So I think that really deserves a round of applause. Like, wow, I mean, that's the most mind-blowing. And the rate of increase is just astonishing. Now, these numbers will actually look very small in the future. In order to build a city on Mars, we'll need to be kind of in the million-ton to orbit range. So maybe a little higher, ideally a little higher, but it's sort of, if you just try to get things to the right order of magnitude, like not trying to get to an exact number, but try to get the order of magnitude right, I think it's on the order, it's roughly 1 million tons to Earth orbit. That'll get you roughly 200,000 tons to the surface of Mars. So roughly, approximately 20% of whatever you get to Earth orbit, you can get to the surface of Mars. And figure like maybe we need at least 1 million tons of useful load to the surface of Mars for it to become self-sustaining. That self-sustaining threshold is actually a very tough threshold to meet, because even if you're missing a tiny thing, then eventually that Mars will die out. So you've got to be able to not just build, for example, computer chips, but you need to be able to build computer chip factories. Because if you can't build computer chip factories, the factory that you do build will eventually break down, and then you'll have no chips, and then that's it. So it's kind of like a long sea voyage, where if you're just missing vitamin C, yeah, you'll cruise on for a while, but then your teeth will fall out and you'll die. So that was a real problem in the old days. Anyway, it's quite a high threshold, and like Mars is a fixer-upper of a planet. It needs some work, but so it's not like you can just run around outdoors and like fish or live off the land. You can't live off the land on Mars. So it's really quite a lot of work that's required to make that work. So Dragon, an amazing amount of progress with Dragon, and an incredible track record of success. So as of last year, the Dragon's fleet time on orbit exceeded the space shuttle fleet. So we had a cumulative over 1,300 days of time on orbit as of last year. So that's pretty mind-boggling that Dragon has now had more days in orbit than the entire space shuttle fleet. It's like, wow. So yeah, and we've had now Dragon has visited the space station more times than the space shuttle as well. So it's an incredible achievement by the Dragon team. So once again, as I was saying, this really has been an incredible. 2023 was like maybe the best year in the company's history. I mean, it was the best year in the company's history, actually. So there's a lot of great things to go through. And I'm not one who gives out false praise. So it's really mind-boggling what you've achieved. So all of the missions last year used a flight-proven Dragon. These Dragons are all flown before. And this year we're looking to fly maybe 7 or 8 Dragon missions. So it's really been, a fantastic success by the Dragon team. This doesn't have audio. There's no sound in space. Yeah, that's a great looking spacesuit. And in Dragon interior. So, yeah, so we've now sent 42 humans to orbit, to be precise. Space is relatively easy, but orbit is very difficult. So we've now taken 42 humans to orbit and back. And I have to say, like, yeah, if there's one thing I wish for, it is that we bring them all back safely. That's like, sometimes people say, well, what is the one thing you wish for? I say, I wish we bring these astronauts back safely. That's one thing. If I had one wish, that's what it would be. So we also have now completed a second crew arm in Florida. So we've got two towers that are capable of, two launch pads that are capable of sending astronauts to orbit. And this is going to be great for being able to shift missions between Pad 40 and Pad 39A. We've got this year our first spacewalk. So we've got to redesign the suit so that you can actually move around in it, and you don't just like pop out like. Because if you just inflate the suit, you just basically, you're kind of like one of those like balloons at a party or something, So it's quite hard to make to still be mobile in an inflated suit, and have the joints move and stuff, and then we will actually evacuate the whole spacecraft. So everyone, even those that don't go on the spacewalk, will still be in vacuum. So obviously very important that it work. We don't have like a little hole in the suit or something go flipping around. But I think obviously we're going to put a lot of testing into this, and but this is going to be another significant milestone, which is to have a suit where you can be in like the vacuum of space with just nothing at all, and just be out there. It's actually hard to conceive of the concept of nothingness, and it's not technically nothing. Like there's a small number of particles per cubic meter, but it's pretty damn close to nothing. If you lose too much air, too much oxygen, that's it. There's no place to get oxygen from. So, like an airplane, even at high altitude, can increase the pressurization pumps and get more atmosphere because it's in the atmosphere. Dragon springs an oxygen leak, and that oxygen leak is too significant. There's no place to get oxygen. You're just going to die. So, the requirements for getting everything perfect are insane. Everything's got to be absolutely perfect to work. We did not, evolve to live in space, obviously. So it's a tough one. But this is really going to be another great milestone, is to actually be able to have someone floating out there, in the vacuum of space, and come back. And we do want to actually have a spacesuit that you can walk around in, because if you're on the moon, you want to be able to walk around the moon, walk around on Mars. So having a high mobility spacesuit that actually isn't crazy expensive, ideally, and that you can walk around in comfortably is a big deal. It's actually an important thing that needs to be developed, and ultimately made in large numbers. Because if we send, say, 1 million people to Mars, then that's 1 million spacesuits, or 1 million Mars suits that you need. So we'll have to make a lot of these things. And we're also going to launch Starlink on that flight. So then coming to Starlink, this is only a whole separate company, but we're basically rebuilding the internet in space, which is pretty wild.